Welcome to the Human Executive Podcast. I'm your host, Rob Kalwarowsky, and as always, we have a special guest with us today, Anubhav Srivastava. He is the founder of Vocatales and UpTales. Anu, how are you?
Very well, Rob. Thank you. Thank you for having me here. I appreciate all the time.
Us. Yeah, absolutely. And so before we jump into storytelling and how folks can use this in their business, can you tell us a little bit about you?
Yeah, absolutely, 100%. You've actually, we are part of a cohort, and you've helped me build the nuggets of my own personal story, Rob, in a way. But I have lived that. So let me kind of dwell a little bit into that itself. Last 25 years of my life in India, I traveled like crazy out there because my dad had a transferable job. I've studied in 10 different schools, all the way from the very early schooling till I did my MBA, and lived in, I would say, half the country. I kept moving. And the only aspect that really connected me with people is not necessarily storytelling back then, but it was language, because India is such a diverse country that every single time I got to a new place, I realized I had to fit in, because if I did not fit in, I would have been left out. And that's where the first thing that I would do was start learning the languages. So I learned a lot of different Indian local languages, and they're very, very diverse. There are very few similarities in those languages. And that kind of really got me started, not on the storytelling side of things, but on the human side of connection, because that's what really gets you going, knowing people, being one with others, knowing cultures. Again, back to the point, culturally so diverse that you had to find a way to make it all work. And then 20 years back, I got married. And one of the very first things that I really did was, within a few months of getting married, was come to the States. I was sent out here on an assignment on a project, and I was a technology consultant. And since then, I've been living in the States with my lovely wife. Over the time, I've had two beautiful kids. They are much more grown up now. One's in high school, and other is in elementary. Over last 3 years is when I've officially been building my businesses. In a way, I call it a creator operating system. It did not happen overnight. There was a journey that we had to really go through to get to this stage of our business as it stands. And now it is kind of a storytelling or a creator operating system or ecosystem at large that we are really building. I'm really upbeat about where we stand today, where we have come over the last 3 odd years. And there's a lot more to open. I call this not like an onion. I actually call this like a lotus, where you start opening the leaves of the closed lotus, and then you see how beautiful it really turns into, unfolds into. That's what we've been building so far with Creator Operating System between UpTales and Vocatales.
So what led you to founding Vocatales and UpTales? Like, you were a successful tech and executive, and then you pivoted. Like, what was that pivot for you?
Yeah, it's a pivot that was in making for many, many years. Back to the point when I got married, there are two things that I told my wife. One, I'm going to stay committed, honest, and make sure that we do everything that I need to do from my part. I made that promise to her. And the second thing, I told this to her, and she knows this. She keeps telling this to me. If not for this, you probably would have not done what you always wanted to do, is I want to build a business someday. And I want it to be wrapped around technology, but I want it to be something that can impact and help people at large. Of what kind, I did not know. But a few years back, and there is another long and short story to this. I'm going to park the long story aside, because long story is how me and my business partner and my dear friend Gul, we kind of really got to know each other. This is 18 years back as well, and how we started building this. But I'm going to kind of park this on the side and talk about when we started building. Vocatales was the first product that I started building. And that product was very focused on writing. And this was 3 years back. AI was just beginning to write. And I would still say AI is just beginning to write. I don't think AI has really reached that level of creativity to be able to write, to create the impact that you really need to have on people. But when I started writing, I opened up Word docs and Google Docs. I quit my job. I wanted to build this business, which was around creative writing. And I also wanted to write my own story. Over my life, I've read over 1,000, maybe even more books. 70% of them have been on the business side, nonfiction, 30% fiction. I, for some reason, wanted to think like a child again, and I wanted to write a story, which is a fictional story. I wanted to tie it back to the roots that have made me. I grew up in India, and I wanted to kind of make this a story that is written. The setting is in India, and I wanted to make it imaginary. I really wanted to fictionalize it, fantasize it in a way. Plus, I wanted to write it for the young adult kind of audience because I wanted to, again, leave that impact through my story in that age group. Which is where I really think the maximum impact needs to be created today, with or without AI and everything that we're really doing. So I started writing, and by the first 6 months of writing, I had written maybe 3 to 4 chapters, and I realized that I am not a good writer if I just have to write top down in a blank canvas, because my thoughts would not flow, because I'm a very, very visual person. So I need to be able to outline, I need to be able to see where the story will go to some extent, not every single bit. I need to be able to plot how my character will evolve. I need to be able to see the relationships in a way. And that's what I started doing on Vocatales. I started creating these. Vocatales is a storyboarding tool where you can storyboard as well as write. And I started storyboarding these various aspects, and I call them story elements. A lot of people who are in the story world will call them exactly the same. We started building them as foundational blocks of stories. And what are these blocks? Characters are the foundational story elements. Locations are the foundational story elements. Themes that you want to have build on are the foundational story elements. Motifs, again, another one of those that you want to have subtle innuendos to those throughout the story building. And we kind of started building the platform in such a way that I could visualize a lot of my story and keep building it, keep crafting it. That's why they call, when you write a story, you don't really write a story for a story to be great. It's a well-crafted story. It is a craft. And that's what I started doing. And over the last, I would say, 2.5 odd years, I have reached that point where it's the culmination of my story. It's reached that point of where I could say, yes, my solid manuscript after multiple drafts, multiple iterations is ready to be published. And second, because of doing this, I could also figure out how does the platform as a whole have all those attributes that will make creating content, not necessarily just stories, becomes a process of thinking, and not just because you have an idea, you put it on a prompt and you start building out the content of that idea. But how do you really think out how your story, how your content, how your flow of information should really build based on what your audience should read like? That's been the genesis of the product, but that is just the starting point of the creator operating system. The tool is used by creatives for the purpose that I just told you of. But this tool, Vocatales, is also used as a structure process. So a lot of people come in, an expert especially, what makes them an expert is because they run on systems. They run on systems, frameworks, templates, and then execution plan. And what we've been doing on Vocatales is enabling a lot of these masters, expert creators, storytellers to bring in their frameworks, their templates, their systems on Vocatales that others can capitalize and leverage on, because that's what is needed for people to be able to work on their own content. Because a lot of times you don't have that thought process of, yeah, this is what I need to do. No, you have to go through the motion to say, oh, yeah, now the idea makes a lot more sense. It's a lot more coherent. So that's the Vocatales side of the creator operating system. The other is UpTales. Being a technologist, building a tool was straightforward, not easy, but it still came very naturally to me. But then through that process, I realized that there is one other thing that makes the human thinking that much better. And that is you being able to validate that thinking with the right people, with the right experts. Try and test it. I don't think It's been going on for millennia, that when people are in doubt, they go and talk to an expert. But for that, you need to have your doubt based on a problem that you've been trying to solve. And that's now that you've done that part of the job on the creator side, let's go and talk to an expert. But no, not any ordinary expert. It's not a Fiverr. It's not an Upwork where everyone is out there available for doing a job. But these are people who have been practitioners, who've been operators, who've really done a lot of work themselves and built their systems. And now when someone comes to talk to them, they can put their experience together as well as along with the experience. Now they can relate it to the problem that this person has come to them with and now helps them give a direction on it. That's the UpTales side. That's the human side of the creator operating system. And that is exactly how I am really looking at it. A personalized masterclass for enabling people who are creating their content on the creator tool per se. And I look at this as a flywheel. You create content and you market and promote your expertise, which is the commerce side. And then as you keep getting better in creating content, creating your frameworks, creating your systems, now you are the expert on UpTales. So that's kind of how I'm really looking at building this flywheel and just getting started. It's been less than a month, just around a month since I've launched UpTales, and I'm seeing pretty good traction from the market.
Something you mentioned was with the AI and like automation of jobs is professionals need to think about becoming more content specific and more sharing their expertise. Like, tell us more about that.
I don't think there has been any other technology in this century so far that has created such a big impact and a ripple effect on how people create and use outcomes. So now you have an idea. Let's put it this way. People say you have an idea to build a product. You go out and create a MVP by coding using the tools that are available to you and create a product. What you miss in that process is, who am I building it for? Why will this work? Why are these people the right users for this product? Yes, you've obviously fast-tracked the process of building a product, but you have not done the work of actually understanding the reason behind it. There's always, as Simon Sinek says, start with why. And a lot of times people are bypassing this why. The same thing goes to writing or ideating at large. People think of an idea, people think, oh, this story will click. It's really going to resonate. And they start creating content based on that idea. And they start publishing it, or they start creating more and more longer bit of content on it. They're getting the outcomes fast, but they're missing out on the process. And all my life, what I have really learned, and I teach this to the kids as well, don't just chase the outcome, understand the process. Because once you understand the process, the outcome becomes that much better. And you also have a lot more control on the outcome because you know how to tweak the process to be able to get to the outcome. And that's what we are really focusing on, the human in the loop side of it. There are two aspects to AI and how people operate working with AI. It's AI in the loop, where AI is at the decision making. AI is doing a lot of the work, heavy lifting, and also taking those final calls of, yeah, this works, this does not. And then it asks the human, at least hopefully and thoughtfully, at least that exists right now, where people are able to still leave that final decision making to the human. But AI is still doing 90% of the work. But there are going to be streams and fields of work where humans will have to not just be that final decision maker. They will also have to be the QA. They will also have to be the initial ideator. They will also have to, because that's how innovation happens. You cannot just innovate based on what AI is producing, because what AI is producing is based on all the past work that has been done. What we need to do is look at it very differently, because that's the power that humans have. They can forget everything that has happened in the past and look at the future as a completely unknown blank slate, and how do we want to change things. That's the reason Back to the Future happened, the movie. We are experiencing and living that today. In the last, I would say, 15 odd years, a lot of those things really have come to true. But that's because someone back then could think of how the future is going to be like. And that's what is needed still by us humans, to be able to think how the future will look like. And that's where we need to have our thinking hat and keep focusing on what really matters from an ideation standpoint, from a future navigation standpoint, and be able to collaborate with our own people. And then say, okay, now we are ready. We have something that is in making. Let's fast track it, working with the tools that are available to us. So it's the human in the loop aspect that I'm really focusing on building forward. Does that help?
Of course, I'm a huge fan of the human first part of this. Now, I think where I would love you to go is a lot of our listeners are entrepreneurs and they're founders as well. Something that I always work with my entrepreneurs is about telling their story, or even folks who work in corporate and they're trying to get promoted or advance their career. It's all about storytelling. And for me, it starts with, what is your brand, whether that's your personal brand, and that doesn't mean you have to go on social media and promote. But what is your brand? What do you want people to think about you? And then how do you go out and start broadcasting that in a way that's supporting your goals? Now, can you tell us a little bit about how do you work with entrepreneurs to use storytelling to help them succeed?
Great question. I don't work with too many entrepreneurs, but what I do work with is my own self and my own team and my own thought process. I would love to probably convey the same approach to other people working out as well. If you look at the storytelling techniques that are out there, one of the storytelling techniques that a gentleman named Brandon Sanderson, he's a prolific fiction writer. He's written over 71 books. When he did a Kickstarter a few years back saying, I want to write 4 books, he raised $41 million. There's a reason why people are willing to invest so much in him. He talks about 3 fundamental aspects of building your story. And it's not a brand. It starts with something called as a promise. What is the promise that you are making to your audience? What is it that they should leave with? And back to the story that I was telling you about me and my wife. When we got married, I told her it started with a promise. I am going to make sure that we live together. And it starts with a promise, not just at my personal level. It starts with a promise as part of the ceremonies and processes that we all, across religion, I think that's exactly what people do, that it starts with a promise. And that's what I say, that when you start writing a story, you should think of what is your promise to the audience of your message. And once you have the promise nailed down, if it's a story, your first page has to look like, okay, this is a promise that it's going to take me to a fantastic world, phantasmic world that I would love to be in. Or if it's a LinkedIn creation, what's the promise? Your banner has to talk about a promise that should intrigue people. Your LinkedIn profile, probably the header has to be something that is a hook enough to say, the promise made sense, and now this is the reason I should read and engage more with Rob or Anubhav or Ron or Nancy. So that's how you kind of really go about. Now you start building the next step of it. That is progress. So how do you show people what is the progress in your story? How have you come to where you are? Up and down. It's, progress is not going to be a perfect upward curve, because then it is not a progress worth pursuing, because very, 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 very few people, very, very, very few businesses have been able to get that. And even if they have, they are lying somewhere, because that is not how progress really works. So now the progress really talks about 5 good things, negative things, 5 obstacles. How did you overcome them? How did you reach a situation where there was a dead end and then you beat that bad guy or came out of the fire? Like what you talk about, coming out of the fire in your own book is phenomenal. I think that's what people need to understand, that progress is when you are able to get in the fire knowingly or unknowingly and be able to come out of it. That is progress. And then the third one then is payoff. Payoff could be interim payoffs, 20 years of marriage. We've had a lot of interim payoffs, and then it keeps going. The payoffs are not done until you start working with the clients that you have. You're talking about people and how they position themselves. I think they need to think of the payoffs that they have given to their clients in the past, and they need to think of the payoffs they want to give to others as they work with. That's how you build your story. So I love that entire format of how Brandon has broken it down. And everything else in between is now to meet the promise, the progress, and the payoff is the plot. Now, whether it's a fiction story or it's a real life story, think of yourself as the hero and think of your plot and start off with the promise and end with the payoff. And there you go. I think you will really get there. there are many other ways to look at this. I think, it's how you slice and dice the information, how you slice and dice the story. There are so many techniques that are available. Most really are built on the 3-act structure. There's a beginning, middle, and end. But I think beginning, middle, and end leaves it a little too open. But the promise, progress, and payoff just pays off the right way. And that's going to be my advice to people. What's your promise to yourself and to your audience? If you have that promise right, I think you will be able to get the progress and the payoffs, which will be proportional to the promise that you make.
So what's the promise of Vocatales and UpTales?
The promise of Vocatales and UpTales together is to help creators think better and be able to grow in their businesses by using the frameworks, technology, and expertise of other humans to level up their game, be able to transform their businesses. And this is a growing space, fast growing space. A lot of people are getting into the creator economy. And I'm not catering to the creators who are in the YouTube and the Instagram and the TikTok side of the world, because they operate very differently. I am catering to the professionals who spend the time creating content, writing, structuring their ideas, structuring their thoughts, working on frameworks. And these are people who are moving from the corporate jobs into this freelancing, solopreneur, individual business, individual operator world. And those are the people I want to say that you need to change the way you think about your own businesses and be able to build it out in a way where your promise is clear, your process is clear, that gives you the progress, and that gives other people the progress, and be able to get the payoff. I think it really ties back to that. As I said, it's a growing economy. Right now, creator economy at large is $400 billion as it stands today. By end of this decade, it's going to be $1 trillion economy. That means many more people are going to be moving from being corporate professionals to creators and storytellers and solopreneurs. So they need to start thinking about how they want to position themselves. And Vocatales and UpTales together is a fantastic place for them to be able to go out and, one, get their structure right, ideas right, and two, talk to the right people, the right experts, to learn from them and start building their own thought process, narratives, and businesses.
I love it. Get out there and build your business. Now, of course, I have to ask this question as a shout out to my book. With all the chaos in the world right now, how can leaders capitalize on it?
I think my answer is going to be a lot more counterintuitive than what everyone else is saying. Everyone else is saying, go out and embrace the tools and technologies that are available to you fast, and anyone who's not is going to be left behind. I would say start. And that's just how instant gratification society works. I would say focus on delayed gratification and be able to do things that you enjoy doing. Tell that to people that are leading as well as people who are working. Start finding what is it that you enjoy doing. And when that happens, you will be able to work on finding the right use or application of what's available to you to enhance that work. Otherwise, you are getting into this race of, let me use what's available to me to do the task that is given to me, and soon enough, I will be, as a resource, because I'm a resource right now, that resource is going to be replaced by another resource that may not be a human resource. So focus on things that you really enjoy doing, that you love, and that will give you opportunities to make money as well. Don't forget that part. And that's the Ikigai principle. You have to find what you love doing. You have to know that what you love doing is going to make you money. And if at all you can add a wrapper to it, that it'll benefit others too. That's true Ikigai, which is the hardest one to get to in all essence and reality. I've been seeing that building this business has been exactly that, following on building and identifying my own Ikigai. But helping others is not taken as it should be taken, because people think, this guy is doing it for the business. This guy is doing it for the money. But there are so many times people are actually doing things because they do want to help others. I do want to help the creators. I do want to help the storytellers. And that's the reason I went down this path of building this entire thought process around a creator operating system catering to the storytellers. It would have been a lot easy for me otherwise to not quit the job from CEO -2 role to, keep rising, keep doing what I was doing. I was very good at doing and make good money. But that is just one part of the ikigai. The other two, if they're not taken care of, are going to not give you the satisfaction and the joy. And that's what leaders should really be telling people. Yes, use the tools. Yes, use the technologies that's available to you, but focus on what gives you satisfaction and joy in building, in creating. And when those two things will collide, that's when magic will happen.
We're all about magic here. Of course, for folks out there, if you want to find out more, I've dropped Anubhav's LinkedIn in the podcast notes. You can also go to Vocatales.com and UpTales.com. Those are also in the podcast notes too, to find out more. Is there anywhere else you want folks to find you or anything you want to promote now?
Yeah, no, I think LinkedIn is a great place to find me for sure. And we are all very active. I'm pretty active on LinkedIn myself, and just reach out otherwise through any other channels. You'll find me on Instagram and Facebook, because I do run a writing group as well on Facebook. It's created by a very good friend of mine, Andy Oakes. He's a British author. It has 250,000 writing members. So if at all people really are in love with writing, they should certainly go and join Andy Oakes group, which I co-manage, co-admin. And yeah, it's a fantastic place to create. Join Vocatales.com. I'll send out a coupon to you, Rob, that you can share with people when you post this, that people can get at a discount. And UpTales.com is a great place to go out and find extraordinary human beings that one should talk to level up their game right now. And you're going to be on UpTales soon as well, Rob. So looking forward to having you out there too.
Amazing. Yeah, thanks. Thanks for having me. Thanks for joining us on the show and sharing your expertise. And of course, folks out there, I will be on UpTales shortly, and you're welcome to reach out to me, robkalwarowsky.com, or you can connect with me on LinkedIn. And great to have you. Thank you,
everyone.
Rob. Thank you, everyone, for listening, and we'll see you all next week.
I appreciate it.